Colts fan, but that all came down to probably one of the worst plays in the history of the Super Bowl at the end of it. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm sharing my screen here with you. Got the recording started. And pull this, there we go. Kind of bring this over here in the middle, bring it over a bit. There we go. Many of you are used to seeing these charts that I pull up. When we go in and look at the long-term trends in the market, and we'll cover some of the trading scenarios. I didn't really do any trading on Friday afternoon. It was very uneventful. Those of you who have been my students for a while probably know that I am generally not a big trader. Once it reaches like noon on Friday, I'll generally shut my screen off because in the absence of any major news events, volatility tends to dry up, and that's exactly what we saw on Friday afternoon. Not a huge amount of liquidity involved in the market. I'm still long on my long-term position on dollar Swiss. I'll talk about that here in just a second and talk about some of these other trading scenarios. I think we do have a lot of great opportunity today, and we'll talk about all of that. But first and foremost, let me just, I have the charts up. I don't even have a PitView up yet because I want to reiterate something, a question that was posed to me from a student. It was actually on Thursday evening, and I didn't get a chance to come around to it last Friday. But the question that gets posed is basically, Steve, you know, we always talk about the dollar, and you talk about the dollar from a long-term trend standpoint and as to why I'm always rather bullish on the dollar. You know, one thing that I do like to do is whenever I'm looking at the markets, we always try to find the overall current or the prevailing trend in the market. One way we do that is through comparison analysis. Several ways we can use comparison analysis is by looking at the charts and also looking at total view to see what currencies are the bully and the wimps in the schoolyard, if you will. When you look at the dollar of how it's been performing over the last 3 months, the dollar versus the euro, dollar obviously very strong. Dollar versus the pound, dollar strong. Dollar versus the Swiss, other than this big precipitous move by the unfixing of the exchange rate, the dollar, you almost have to kind of take this out of the equation sometimes, but the dollar actually medium term has been very strong against the Swiss. This is another one that we've been kind of bearish on, has been the Swiss franc. I do still have a target of it breaking up into at least the midpoint of this range from the unfixing of the exchange rate based on the negative interest rate policy with the Swiss National Bank. The one that we've been kind of looking at trading in either direction is right here on the dollar yen. Dollar yen has been moving sideways in a very much a range. Something that we're used to seeing on the dollar yen. So you could almost call the dollar sideways versus the yen. I still consider the dollar being strong versus the Swiss because, you know, taking that fixed exchange, unfixing of the exchange rate policy out of the equation, you really do still have that kind of unfixed, even with that fixing being taken out of the equation, the unfixing, I should say, you still have a large amount of dollar strength going into that unfixing, and it's ever since it happened, we have a large amount of dollar strength. And then, of course, the commodity currencies have been getting crushed over the last 3 months. Dollar strong versus Canadian, dollar strong versus Ozzy, and dollar strong versus New Zealand. So overall dollar strength there over the long term. Looking at things from a news standpoint, and one of the reasons why I don't have PitView up yet is to kind of keep you focused, and we'll look at some other things that are happening here. Let me go to kind of the news events for this week, kind of show you what's shaken from a news standpoint, because we do have some news coming out this evening that you need to be aware of. You know, starting at 10 a.m., right when we get to the back end of class, we got the ISM manufacturing coming out here in the U.S. ISM manufacturing, they kind of, when you look at the kind of the expectations for the number, they've kind of downgraded their expectations as far as what manufacturing could come out with, what the manufacturing number might be here at 10 a.m. You know, from a manufacturing perspective, I think that, you know, a lot of things might continue, you would look at the kind of the prevailing trend on the dollar. Manufacturing has actually come out very strong 3 out of the last 5 times it's come out, and the fact that they're expecting it to come out less than 55, I think I'm kind of expecting this to come out at least in line with expectations, which could continue some dollar strength. But that would be one to where it may not cause a huge amount of volatility in the dollar. Even when it's come out very strong, it hasn't caused a huge amount of volatility. We can take a look at that at the end of class. One of the big things coming up this evening is the Ozzy interest rate decision. This is one that several months ago you would have kind of bet on this coming out of them keeping this unchanged. However, over the last week or so, the tone has shifted kind of on this Ozzy interest rate decision, that there is a possibility that they could cut rates, if you will. In fact, there's a large contingency. There's a large contingency of traders out there that have kind of switched their view from them maintaining more of a neutral bias to cutting their exchange rate by 25 basis points, and also expecting the Reserve Bank of Australia to come out with a little bit more of a dovish tone, but quite similar to what New Zealand did last week, where New Zealand went from being hawkish in their previous rate statement to being very neutral and quite dovish. So in this case, this one really doesn't look very good for the Aussie coming up tonight at 10:30 p.m. my time. That's Eastern time. Other things to look out for, and we can talk more about during the week, but let me concentrate on Tuesday. One of the big things coming out on Tuesday afternoon is New Zealand. Their employment numbers are coming out. This is something to where quite expectedly, if the employment numbers, it's kind of a 1-2 punch, because you've got Graham Wheeler coming out and talking at 6 p.m. I believe whatever Graham Wheeler will speak to as far as kind of giving guidance on the New Zealand economy is going to come down to what these numbers do. If we get worse than expected unemployment numbers and employment change numbers from the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, you can expect Wheeler to come out. If you remember correctly, last Wednesday, in their interest rate statement, to put it into layman's terms, if you will, Graham Wheeler, they went to being more of a neutral bias, to where their bias was more towards raising rates. And their bias last Wednesday was more like, we could raise them, we could lower them, we'll just have to see what's going on here. The employment numbers would be a huge one, to where if they come out less than expected, you could expect Wheeler to maybe take a more dovish stance when he comes out and talks at 6 p.m., which would be bad for New Zealand also. And then, of course, coming up the rest of the week, we always talk about news that's coming out, because we always have to keep that kind of in the back of our heads. ADP, this has been kind of a non-event lately. That's the private sector, non-farm change. You got retail sales coming out in Australia, non-manufacturing PMI. The pound has their official interest rate statement coming out on Thursday. They've kind of shifted from a little bit of indecision within the Bank of England to having more of a unanimous decision to keep rates unchanged in their last bank rate announcement. This is another one that we may talk about on Wednesday. The pound is one to where we could look for trading it in either direction as it kind of starts to make any type of reversal patterns in the market, which is it's doing today. To possibly look for, I think it's built in maybe a unanimous, people are kind of expecting them to keep rates unchanged and have that being more of a unanimous vote this time around. So that's built into the price, I believe, on the pound. We'll take a look at that one also probably on Wednesday. And then, of course, on Friday, we got the big boy of the non-farm employment change coming out on the dollar. All right, now on to some trades. Let's first look at, I can now bring my PitView up in here, because there's a lot of things that we can start to look at. And let me also bring up my total view. One thing I like to look at on Total View is, since it is Monday morning, we like to go back 24 hours to see what have been the most well-bid currencies, most well-offered currencies over the last 24 hours. One of them that we will be looking at quite closely today is going to be the euro. One thing that we always look at is we know that the euro is extremely weak over the long term, and we call it one of our usual suspects. We always like to see one of our usual suspects down here near the bottom of weakness. When the long-term chart on, trend on the chart is very weak on a currency, and that matches up with the 24-hour bid and ask imbalances, the euro is certainly a dog today. That's one of them we'll be looking to trade today. I really do like going short on the euro. One of our students had a really nice trade last night on a retracement of the euro. So we will be looking at trading both momentum and retracements today on the euro because we should consider that to be one of the wimpy kids in the schoolyard. The yen has also been well offered over the last 24 hours. That's also one of our usual suspects, especially since it's down near the lower part of its range, right in here. And then, from a strength perspective, surprisingly enough, the Swiss has been going really nuts from a bid and ask standpoint over the last 24 hours, right here near the top. The CAD has been very much well bid also from the market makers overall versus all the currencies. The dollar has been kind of hovering back and forth as far as its strength and weakness. It's been kind of coming up, coming down, coming up, coming down. So it's kind of a mixed bag on the dollar this morning, although it has been kind of rising steadily over the last several hours. We'll come back to Total View here in just a little bit, but you can see how all currencies are very strong versus the euro here this morning. So let me as far as our mixed bag here, let me pull up two currencies here. Let me go to the euro. I'm going to go ahead and take some of these charts off. And I'm going to tile these on we're going to get into trading mode here. And I'm going to first take these down to hourly time frames. Switch these up on my pair view windows. All right. Let's also pull up our trades for last week. Here's our live trading room, our kind of trading notes. On the dollar Swiss, this may have caused a bit of controversy with you. It may have been a kind of a mea culpa, a little bit of a my bad on dollar Swiss. I'm extremely bearish on the Swiss. I do feel like it's been steadily coming up as far as its weakness goes versus the dollar. The negative interest rate would be bad for the Swiss. So looking for long positions, which has really benefited us. Their bid and ask activity has been extremely volatile on the Swiss franc over the last several weeks, if you will. The open position that I have on dollar Swiss, the question came up at the end of class on Friday as far as, if we wanted to take the same position as me of where to put in our position essentially. When I look at the dollar Swiss overall, my trade, and I'll pull it up in here for you. My trade down in here is I had my entry in at 9.92524. This is the same trade I had from last Friday with a stop loss at 0.91500. You can see my stop loss. I had gotten in when it came out of a little break above this. It broke above into new highs, and I got in at approximately 91.50 or 92.52.524 on two lots, and I have my stop right below this low. At the time that I sent that out, we were looking right up in here on the dollar Swiss. We were looking right up in here on it. In fact, we can zoom in a little bit on this dollar Swiss so we can see a little bit better. At the time of class on Friday, it would look like we were starting to break into new highs. And I told people if they wanted to take that same type of position and not put as much risk on it, they could potentially put their stop below this low right in here. Well, even at the time when I sent out the trading notes, it had already made this big move here to the downside where it potentially could have stopped you out if you would have gotten into that other trading scenario. It came down very close to my stop, but I held my stop order below these previous lows and then shot right back up here over the weekend. So on dollar Swiss, when we look at trading it today, I really believe when we look at it from a long-term perspective, I'm extremely bearish on the Swiss and still bullish on the dollar. However, for today's market activity, let me just kind of show you what I'm thinking here, and then we'll switch over to the euro. Looking at it here, you can see that it made this nice little move up here to the upside, kind of following this nice little trend line here to the upside, and it's currently breaking through the lows on here on the trend line. When you look at this, it's really been consolidating sideways and it's broken this trend line now to where I think you can really comfortably look at trading the Swiss as far as the scalping strategy for today goes. You can look at trading the Swiss in either direction, with potentially taking a longer term swing trade if it does make a nice retracement down to our fib levels here today. So one thing I was going to do when I started class here, I have a couple of trades on here on dollar Swiss. I was going to go ahead and, for right now, just so we can all kind of trade these together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this position out on dollar Swiss. I have about 50 pips into the trade right now. I'm going to close out that longer term position, and with the hopes of potentially reestablishing it based on what it does today. You can see this amount of consolidation that's been happening a bit sideways here on the Swiss. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. I'll talk about the dollar yen position I have on right now also here, and some other positions. But let's go ahead and switch over here on dollar Swiss, since that's the one that we have in front of us, and talk about potential scalping strategies for today. So let me shrink this over to a 5-minute chart. I can go ahead and take off this right in here. There we go. And we can even probably zoom in even a little bit closer in on dollar Swiss. You can see this consolidation that's been occurring on dollar Swiss throughout the last 24 hours. So we're going to switch over to having more of a shorter term perspective on dollar Swiss today with a scalping strategy. So let's go ahead and bring up our notes for today. That was really the only trade from Friday. That would have been a little bit of a bummer, but you win some, you lose some. So that's why I went ahead and closed that one out. Let me take our euro dollar scalping strategy from right down in here, and I'm going to put it up here near the top so we can discuss a potential scalping strategy on dollar Swiss here today. So let me break that down. I can go ahead and delete that chart. And let's talk dollar Swiss scalping. Large amount of volatility on the Swiss, so always keep that in mind. When we look at dollar Swiss on the chart, and here, let's go ahead and draw all this out on the chart here. Since we're already in kind of this range here, and dollar Swiss really has, when we look at it from a volatility standpoint, it has it's an equal opportunity. It's an equal opportunity, if you will, trading scenario on it, either taking buys or sells on it today. Expect some volatility on it, but this thing has been moving. When you see these moves on here, you know, it moves easily. It can move 10, 15, 20 points within 10, 15-minute periods here when it does make strong moves to the up or the downside. So looking at this right now, where my stop loss should be, this was a shorter term trade I had. On dollar Swiss, I'll tell you right now, I went long because it did go to a plus 20 earlier. Let me put in my proper trading scenario on here. 0.93845. Should be risking 20 on this to make 20. Just changing my scenario around 92845. That should be. That's why it's not letting me put it in. There we go. Modify that. All right, there we go. On the 5-minute totals, where I'm already reaching out to, let's see here, I'm already at a negative 25. So I'm going to go ahead and now take this position off because it went to a plus 20 and now went to a minus 20. So I'm actually going to reverse this position now. So new order here on dollar Swiss. Sorry for not being flat coming into class, folks, but that's just the name of the game. You see how on the 5-minute totals on dollar Swiss, we're going to a negative 30 now. We're going to go ahead and whenever it goes plus 20, minus 20, as long as we have room to go, which we certainly do, I'm going to go ahead and take a sell position on my PitView screen. I'm going to put in a stop loss and a take profit for right now of 20 pips on here. And I'm going to go ahead and go short dollar Swiss. Not enough money. Oh, for one micro lot. That's how we track. And go ahead and go short here. There we go. 20 pips, 1 micro. That is in. Sweet. So let me write out the trading scenario here on dollar Swiss real quick. So scalp strategy. It's going to be plus 20 or minus 20 on our 5-minute, and we're going to look at totals. So you can enter either into buy or sell trades on either plus 20 or minus 20 scenarios on the 5-minute totals. I was long. You can see how when it went negative 20, how that kind of saved me a little bit because it only took like a 30 pip loss on that, or not a 30 pip, a 30 cent loss, which is basically a little bit less than the spread between the bid and ask on dollar Swiss. And we'll see what shakes out with that little scenario there. As far as our stop orders go, and I'll write this up here near the top. Hey Bader, I saw your question pop up. It's an interesting one, and I'll circle back around to that here at the end of this. But the stop should be a minimum of 20 pips. We base it on the spread. We never want the cost of trading on this to exceed 25% of the average spread. Now on dollar Swiss, depending on volatility, the spread can be, and it all depends on what your individual trading platforms are. But on the spread, you can look at a minimum based on the spread. Like the spread on the dollar Swiss has been ranging anywhere to where it can be 2.3 pips, sometimes 3 pips upon entry. We're looking for kind of a minimum of 4 times the spread being our minimum stop or take profit point on dollar Swiss. If we wanted to, we could even round it down. The spread has not been as tight as of late on dollar Swiss. Like right now it's 2. So I wanted to take a look at this right when we got in. Dollar Swiss, let's see, trading, it's anywhere between, we could actually do probably about 16 pips as our minimum stop and take profit point and base it on more of like a 4 pip spread scenario. So that would be your stop limit. Look for 1-to-1 risk reward. So we'll change that around a little bit. Because the spread, if you remember last week, the dollar Swiss was trading off like sometimes 5 pip spreads. And the only thing that we don't want to do if we're scalping is we just want to make sure that we are not putting our spread to a region in our trade to where it's basically taking us out of the probability zone. That's what people had questions on that last week, but essentially what it boils down to is we don't want our cost to exceed probability. So I can move that, put that at 864, kind of tighten those up a little bit. Now we also exit we call this alternative exit or PitView exit, alternative signal. Which would be for sell trades, we're going to get out if it goes to a plus 20. And for buy trades, we're going to get out if it goes to a negative 20. We're currently short, so we'll watch the 5-minute totals up here. If they go to a plus 20, we're going to get out. And remember, those are more short-term scenarios, if you will. That's what kind of gets us out of these trades a little bit earlier if it gives us the alternative signal. And then look for your 1-to-1 risk-reward scenarios. There we go. So let's go ahead and snip that. Give me 1 second here. I need to change something. Let me bring up my snipping tool. I don't know if you can see this on my screen when I pull it up, but I just need to make sure I got my snipping tool out so I can. There we go. All right. Bring back up our trading scenario and put that chart up there. So minimum stop and profit level of 16 pips. You can use swing highs or lows, but you just want to make sure that if you're using a previous swing high or a previous swing low that your stop is at least 16 pips away. Exit on sells when the 5-minute goes to a plus 20. Exit on buys when 5-minute total goes negative 20. And for limits, use 1-to-1 risk reward. So we got that working for us, which is nice. All right. So we'll keep an eye on that dollar Swiss here in the middle. Right there. Go ahead and tile our windows again. Got these all up there. Look for a nice little, hopefully a nice little trade to the downside here on dollar Swiss. We got that right in the middle as far as our parameters go. Euro dollar is another one at where we're looking for sell trades here today. Let me bring up our euro dollar trading scenarios here. So let me expand that. We're getting very close to our take profit level on dollar Swiss. See what happens with that one. Kind of zoom in a little bit. I'm going to go through a couple of different scenarios here on euro dollar. Remember here, when we look at our total view, the euro dollar has been the wimpy kid of the schoolyard here today. And there are several ways you can look at euro dollar today. You can look at it from a swing trading perspective of putting on more long-term positions, meaning trades that are going to last, outside of just a couple of minutes or whatnot. Or we can look at it from a scalping perspective today. However, we want to be smart in the way we approach any type of scalp trades or scalp scenarios on euro dollar here also. But let me go through a swing trade scenario here, because the euro dollar has certainly been the wimpy kid of the schoolyard here. So we need to make sure that we take a look at this one. First off, let me kind of congratulate, I think it was Bob that had come in here and sent me an email the other day, or I'm sorry, last night, of a good catch on this one. Let me kind of explain this scenario here. Whenever we've had significant retracements on the euro dollar, and this has been an ongoing thing in our class. We should have just taken our max take profit, by the way, on dollar Swiss for our 16 pips, by the way. So if you're in that one, good job. Euro dollar scenarios for swing trades right now. Now that I have this little retracement up, you can see that the euro dollar, it came down the other day. On Friday, we had this tight consolidation in the afternoon. Not much occurring here. It kind of stayed within this little 20 pip range right down in here. Now, when you look at this, it did retrace back, and it almost gave us if you look at this scenario, it gave us an A, it gave us a B, and it gave us a C retracement all the way up to the 78.6 level, which this is our retracement zone right up in here, to where it would have given you an opportunity last night. If you were still looking to trade retracements on euro dollar, you should have certainly been looking at this as a nice solid entry level on euro dollar to go short. Bob, good job on spotting that. And it also formed what we would call an ABC, and you can almost call that, based on our parameters for a Gartley pattern, a nice little Gartley pattern there. Now, the reason why we like trading retracements to the upside on the euro dollar, check this out real quick. If you're a trading geek like me, you'll appreciate this. The euro dollar, you see all this consolidation right in through here on the euro dollar. And every time it's made swing lows, swing highs, swing low, swing high, swing low, swing high. It's been a 78.6% of retracement zone feast on the euro dollar every time it's retraced back to the upside. So if you wanted to pull up different Fibonacci sequences, for example, every time it's retraced back up here, you can tell that they're probably protecting this 114 level because of the QE that's occurring with the euro dollar. But from this swing high to this swing low, you can see, came up, it never would have stopped you out, could have gotten into a retracement trade. If we go over from this swing high to this swing low, it came up and retraced back into our retracement zone and came down. And now, where the retracement zone stands right now, zoom in a bit here, is we should be looking at trading that same retracement level as euro dollar starts to come back to the upside. So our swing trading scenario for today, and it's you can almost look at this as an intraday, even though we are looking at a 1 hour time frame, but let me scoot this over a bit, is certainly look at shorting euro dollar if we get back up into this retracement zone right up in here. What is the retracement zone? Between the 61.8 and 78.6% retracement levels. That's our retracement zone. Should we be out of the dollars? Yes, you should be out of dollar Swiss right now. We were looking for 16 pips for our stop and take profit level. So you should be out of that. You should have captured a quick 16 pips on that. So retracement zone, what we're going to do is look, if it comes back up in this level whatsoever, we're going to look for sell entries, and this is going to be more of a swing scenario. You see here, euro dollar is already at a -5 on the 1 hour total, so we know that it's being dogged right now. It's certainly been one of the weakest currencies here. So we're going to look for sell entries on the euro dollar today. Once it hits the retracement zone, and it gets to a net, and if it's in the retracement zone, once it hits the retracement zone, we're going to look for a -5 on the 1 hour totals. Now, if it comes back up into this area and it's still at a -5, I would say go ahead and sell it if it touches that 61.8. However, it probably, if it is going to retrace, it might come up, it might go below the -5. But I still like the idea of shorting the what out of euro dollar this morning, or long term even. Our stop, if we get a retracement on this, our stop we're going to put right up above this high, so 1.13536. So we'll call it 566 to account for spread. And if that does occur on our take profits, limit 1, look for a 1-to-1 risk reward. Meaning based on whatever your entry might be, look for a 1-to-1 risk-reward ratio. Limit 2, it's been, obviously you can see this consolidation right in here in these 113 levels. It is having a hard time making a sustained break below 113. So limit 2, let me go to our Fibonacci levels. Let me delete that real quick. I put that the wrong way. If you do want to scale out, 113.10. $13.10. Again, whenever we put multiple take profit levels on here for something like the euro dollar or anything else, the multiple take profits essentially mean that once we take off one lot, we'll take one lot off when we hit a 1-to-1 risk reward. We'll split our trade in half. So we'll do 2 micros or 2 minis or 2 standards, depending on your account size. When it does get up into the retracement zone, wherever our entry is when we reach a -5 on the 1 hour totals, once it is in that retracement zone, once you hit a 1-to-1 risk reward, you take half your position off, you move your stop to break even, and then you look for a little bit higher reward potential without it having to break into a new low. That's why we use the 78.6% retracement of the retracement, if you will. So let's go in here, copy that down. So that'll be our swing trade scenario on euro dollar today. So that's a scalp strategy. So let's move on to our swing strategy on Euro USD. This is on the we'll call it a 1 hour time frame, although if you look at the 5-minute chart, it also gives you a setup on that. Let's copy and paste that. There we go. Bring that down a little bit. So be watching on those retracements on the to sell retracements on Euro USD. Sell into retracements on Euro USD. There we go. Nice. Now, from a swing trading standpoint, I can go ahead and clear all these objects off of the chart, since we already have everything copied down. I'll be watching Euro dollar very extremely close here. Let me change this over to a 5-minute chart. Now, as long as you have, you may have been watching Euro USD over here on the 5-minute totals when we were starting class. It was at a -20. However, I do like the idea of selling Euro USD today. If you want to look at a short-term scalp strategy on Euro USD, I would look to take sells. The reason why we didn't take a sell when we were right down in here when we were starting class is because of the fact that it was very near its swing low for the day. And we've talked before about room to go, meaning if something has been kind of range bound, if it's already exerted its average move for the day, you know, you got to be a little bit more diligent in where you put your stops and take profits and what signals you look for. So I was actually looking for this to come back up a little bit off of these lows to give me room, or room to go is what I call it, to the downside for take profits. Meaning on the euro dollar today, we really do not see, this is the 113 level. We would prefer that when we set our trade up, that our take profit level is not below this level, okay? We would prefer that there's some room for the euro dollar to get down to this level. That 113 has been acting as some support here today, so if I'm going to take a short to scalp on euro dollar, I would prefer it to not be in this range down in here. So if you're looking for shorter term plays on the euro dollar today, now that it has come up off of those lows, we can certainly take this to the next level of looking for better scalp trades to go short on euro. But if you are scalping Euro USD today, we're just going to take sell entries on -20 on the 5-minute totals. Same strategy as last week. Stop. Here, I'll put that up here. Stop profit. We're going to do a minimum of 12 pips for our stop. And take profit levels. Here, I'll move that down to here. Because remember, if this starts coming up, we're gonna short it if it gets into our retracement zone on the 1-hour chart. Let's see, somebody has their hand raised here. Let's see, who is that? Why 12? 12, we're looking at the euro dollar spread. See on the Euro USD, and this is based on my platform, but the Euro USD is looking at, on my platform here on Forex.com, it's looking at about 2 point something as far as the average spread goes. And that's a great question, Michael, as far as the minimum of 12 pips. We have a rule on scalping, and my apologies for not, some of you have come in here for a while, but I know there's been a lot of you coming in for either the first or second time. When we look at the spread, and if it's like 2.3 pips, 2.2 pips, I kind of round that up to 3 pips. If it's 2 point something, if it's 1 point something, I kind of round it up to whatever the nearest full number is. So the average spread on the euro dollar, when I look at it, it looks at, we're looking at an average of like 2.3, 2.4 pips. So I kind of round that up to 3 pips. I multiply that by 4, and that comes to 12. And the reason why I multiply it by 4 is because I don't want the cost, the spread of the trade, to exceed 25% of my potential profit or loss amount. And that's something we do in scalping, and that's a great question, Michael, because it's something we do in scalping because one of the biggest problems that scalpers have, and one of the reasons why a lot of people that take scalp trades lose money, is because if they're looking for only like 5 or 6 pips on a scalp trade, but they're paying like a 2.3, 2.4 spread on their trade, well, the cost of the trade is going into their probability to where, let's say you're risking, it's a good scenario. Let's talk about this for a second. And I'll just write this out on here. Let's say you're risking 5 pips to make 5 pips, and the spread, let's say on Euro USD, that you pay on your platform is, let's say, 2.4 pips. Well, on the trade, right when you get in, you are down 2.4 pips. So basically the pair only has to move which could only be a tick. It only has to move 2.6 pips before it moves 7.4 pips. See, in that case, because the cost kind of exceeds so much because you're paying such a high spread, this is one of the reasons why a lot of retail, from a retail standpoint, if you're on an institutional platform and you're barely paying a spread on something, if it's 0.2 or 0.3 pips, you don't have to worry as much. But when you're on a lot of retail trading platforms, which a lot of students are, the actual cost of the trade kind of outweighs the probability. Now let's before we get into we got time to kind of look at this Euro USD. All right, so let's go to our dollar Swiss because it's giving us another sell signal. Dollar Swiss is at a -20 once again on the 5-minute time frame. So it's time to execute again on dollar Swiss. I'm going to go short one lot, 16. You see dollar Swiss is at a -20 once again. That's been at like 3 point something, so I kind of round up to 4 in that same scenario. I'm going to go ahead and short that. Got that one in. Somebody wants to look at dollar CAD. Yes, of course, yeah, we'll definitely look at dollar CAD. All right. Taking sells only and the alternative exit. Move that back in there. There we go. And the limit's going to be a 1-to-1 risk reward that we look for on that. So let's snip that. Same strategy from Friday, folks, on Euro USD. And of course, if anybody wants to look at any other pairs, I'm happy to share my opinion on that. So same strategy. On your scalp strategies, just look for a 1-to-1 risk reward. So we got that one in there. And we can now put that off to the side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the 5-minute chart up on here. But I'm also going to put our retracement levels on. So let me kind of zoom out on this. See here, here's our retracement zone, if you will. Let me make sure that matches up with our 1 hour time frame. It's already in that retracement zone. You know, this has already given a sell up in here. We already got a hit. It got into our retracement zone, and that's really all we're looking for. I'm going to go ahead and do a new order on here. Actually, I can do it from right here. I can do it directly from PitView. I'm going to do 2 lots here. Put my stop above this high. Why are we doing this? We are doing this because it got into our retracement zone on the 1 hour. The 1 hour totals are at a -5. That's all we're looking for. This may just set us up. If we're doing 2 lots, because of how far it's coming down, I'm just going to set this up as a 1-to-1 risk reward trade in here. Here, there we go. 1.13566. Go ahead and sell this. Putting it up above this swing high. I'm going to hold this one as kind of more a longer term trade in here. A lot of scenarios today here, folks, so if you get confused because we're bouncing around a lot, just follow the bouncing dot, if you will. Let's see here. Setting this up. What's our risk on this trade? I've got to do this. We're doing 25. So take profit is going to be right at the lower end of that range. So 25.1 pips to the upside for 25.5 pips to the downside. I'll switch that back over to a 5-minute chart. You can still treat it like a scalp trade. It hasn't gone -20, so it hasn't really given a scalping signal to where you can risk less, but it has come up into our retracement zone in there. So that's why we're taking that, because it matches our swing trading parameters. Take some of that test. There we go. I'm going to hold that one on there. I'm going to revisit that here just a little bit. I'm going to keep that over there. Dollar Swiss, and he changes back to a 5-minute. That almost hit our max profit down in there of 16 pips. I'll have to keep an eye on the 5-minute totals here in the middle. So far we got a swing trade that's executed on Euro USD. We're looking for it to get to the bottom part of that range. You can see our take profit levels right down here at the bottom part of that range. I got 25 pips at risk on that. 25.1 pips, if you will. Crazy stuff, folks. Crazy. That's the beauty about doing live trading, huh? It's like, hey, can we bounce around a little bit more, Steve? All right. Let me take some of these objects off here. Object list. I can take all the objects off this dollar Swiss. Now on the euro dollar, just so you know, if you want to, you can still wait for a separate scalp trade to occur on here if it goes to a -20, if you will. Dollar Swiss, we can really take them in either direction. And that leads me to our good friend here this morning, the dollar yen. So let's go to that bad boy real quick. And we'll keep our PitView totals up on here, by the way, so that we can keep an eye on these. Dollar yen. Let me go to a 5-minute chart here also. And I'm going to zoom in quite a bit on here. Dollar yen is another one that's been trading extremely risk off, if you will, in the market. And when I say risk off, I mean as stocks go up, dollar yen goes up. As stocks go down, dollar yen goes down. When it comes to any type of scalping scenarios here on the dollar yen, and I'm looking at this on a 5-minute chart, this is another one to where I would really favor taking scalp trades on dollar yen in either direction. So I'll put buy and sell entry, and we're going to do the same type of scalping scenario on dollar yen today. So buy and sell entry on dollar yen is going to be +20 or -20 on the 5-minute totals. For you scalpers out there, I already took a swing position on euro dollar. I'll let you know. Look at this 5-minute totals. If you are extremely short term, you might still be waiting on this one to go to a -20. Okay, we're looking at dollar yen, which is this bad boy right in here now. The reason why we went short on euro dollar is because the 1-hour total was at a -5 and it was in its retracement zone. So I was happy to take a swing trade on that one. Now on dollar yen, we're going to keep an eye on the 5-minute totals on this one on here today also. So let's go in here. And we just had the manufacturing number come out. What did that do? Markets are down off of that, so I'm assuming that it probably was not a great number. It came out 53.5. Yeah, it's definitely a low. I was kind of expecting that to come out more in line, but no worries there. We're going to be fighting two trends here then on dollar Swiss. Dollar's getting weaker versus the Swiss, stronger versus the euro. Less than expected manufacturing numbers. We're going to stick with our plan though. All right. There's no need to take any other positions right now, folks. Number came out. You could say that the market is down, the dollar's gone down by 20 pips, but it's not, big time news events. You might look for like big 50 pip moves or whatnot. This is a 5-minute chart, so when you see like a little 18-point move in dollar yen, I'm not stressing on that, if you will. So stop. So minimum stop on here. Profit. Got stopped out on euro dollar. That sucks. Sometimes you get the elevator. Sometimes you get the shaft. Minimum stop, take profit, 12 pips. That put us negative for our trading class here this morning. That sucks. All right. Alternative exit would be the alternative signal. Plus 20. Had a lot of action here this morning, folks, so bear with me. Futures didn't like that one. Dollar yen's got a pretty tight spread, so we can look for, we can look for those shorter amount of pip moves on it. Let's go ahead and snip this. Put that on our screen. Keep an eye on those totals there at the top. We're doing 12 pips on that. It had a little bit higher spread on Friday morning, so that's why we were at 15 pips on that. And all right. Oh, all right. Let's see what's going on with all this craziness on here. Let's go over to euro dollar first. That one probably did had a little tailspin right in there. Dollar Swiss, it's up about four pips right now. That one's gotten very near our take profit level several times. Be nice if that one went to take profit. That would put us in the black here for our class here today. All right, back over in here. Yeah, there was our retracement trade. It got into our retracement zone, trade around that ISM number, the manufacturing number. That kind of took us out there. What I'll generally do when that occurs is I'm going to go back here. There was that swing low. Let's see where that next high is, 113.70. For the euro dollar from here, since we got stopped out on our little swing strategy there on the euro dollar, it's still nearing the upper part of this range right up in here. I'm more than happy taking scalp trades on dollar Swiss in either direction here, folks. But for right now, on euro dollar, if you're doing any type of scalping strategies, what I would say is I would still take any type of sells if this goes to negative 20 on euro USD. It's reaching the upper part of its range now. Let the news die down a bit. This is the only one where I'd still be looking to go short. It's one of those things to where every time it's gotten to the upper part of that range, even when there's been bad news on the dollar, if you will, it still bounces from the upper part of that range. So keep that scalping strategy, same scalping strategy on for the 5-minute totals. It stopped us out on our swing trade. Sometimes we get the elevator, sometimes we get the shaft. That's just how it works. But still look for swing trades if the 5-minute totals go to -20, especially now that it's gone up. I mean, it's kind of fighting the prevailing trend at this point. So if it continues up, I would certainly still favor shorting Eurodollar and looking for if it goes -20 on the 5-minute totals. Dollar yen, I think we can take those in either direction. If it goes -20, if it goes +20, I'm looking for scenarios on that. Obviously, it came down. Markets, stock markets certainly did not like the manufacturing number. So dollar yen is down, euro dollar's up. Dollar Swiss is kind of floating right here in the middle. We're going to keep that one on. Make sure you keep an eye on the 5-minute totals on that one also. Remember, we can take buys or sells on dollar Swiss here today. Let me go ahead and I'm going to go through some other currencies here. I know I'm past time. I usually go over time. I apologize for that. Stick with those 3 scalping strategies: dollar yen in either direction, dollar Swiss in either direction, euro dollar take sells. Stick with those for right now. Obviously, dollar Swiss has served us well up until this point. Knock on wood. And let's go ahead and we'll take a look at some other currency pairs here. Since we're in dollar Swiss, let me pull dollar Swiss over to this chart. I'm going to keep dollar Swiss here in the middle. And let's see, somebody wanted to look at dollar Canadian here today. Go. Let's see, dollar CAD, looking at the 100 pip move that it's had to the downside here on dollar Canadian. When you look at this overall from a swing trading perspective, we had this nice little uptrend on dollar Canadian right in through here. You know, you had this nice little uptrending move all through here on the 1 hour time frame. I'm just kind of looking at other pairs here from request here, folks. And yeah, we had this big rundown on dollar Canadian. A large part of this initial move right in here was based on oil prices making a slight recovery here this morning. Not by a huge amount, but it was enough to bring dollar CAD stronger. When you look at dollar CAD, you know, the Canadian has just been getting torn up over the last several months with the lowered, oil prices getting dragged down. Bank of Canada lowered their interest rate 25 basis points, and none of that was good for the CAD. So this was all CAD weakness right in here. One thing that we look for sometimes on dollar Canadian is when it does break through trend lines, it tends to make very sustained moves through trend lines. Here on the downside of the equation, though, if you're looking to trade dollar Canadian today, even if miraculously maybe we get an even further, dead cat bounce or spike up in oil prices here today, since dollar CAD has come down, almost damn near 200 points here to the downside for the day. If you're looking to trade dollar Canadian, I would look at it more from a short-term perspective. Maybe go to your 5-minute charts. And the scalping strategy that we generally utilize in class, look to take trades in either direction, essentially. You can go with the trend, but be mindful of where this bottom is right down in here, which is about 30 pips away. Dollar CAD, you'd probably be looking for at least a minimum stop take profit level of, again, probably about 12 pips. But I would certainly say that on dollar Canadian, you can look for the same scenario as far as scalping in either direction, +20, -20. If it's consolidated in through here, what you would even like further on dollar Canadian, if we do get a +20 and if it's breaking out above this consolidation right in through here, it could certainly set you up for a nice little trade to the upside. If it goes negative 20, just be mindful of these lows as it comes down if you're looking to trade this to the downside. What I mean by that is as it comes down near these lows, you're kind of running out of room to go. It's going into no man's land. So you just want to be mindful of those levels because you don't want to be stuck in a situation where you're trying to get the market to break into even further lower lows on dollar Canadian. So, it has come down quite a bit on dollar Canadian. I don't think we should be shifting tone on the CAD just yet as far as the way it's been reacting. One thing you could also look for from a swing trading perspective, there's not a lot of swings to go by on dollar Canadian. You can kind of have to go back to these previous lows way back in here if you're looking to trade retracements, which it has a lot of room to go down. So if you're looking to trade retracements, you could look for potential retracement trades if it gets down here into the retracement zone to go long dollar Canadian. If it goes to a +5, that would almost be something I would prefer. But dollar Canadian, I would say scalp trades, yeah, go ahead, take them in either direction, just like we've done on dollar yen, just like we're doing on dollar Swiss. For longer term swing type of trades, if it comes down to this retracement zone, be mindful of the 1 hour totals. If you see that go to a +5 down in this retracement zone, take a shot at it. All right. Other ones to look out for. And then Bader had asked, the negative 0.075 interest is bad for Swiss. The negative interest on Swiss is bad for it in the long term. One of the reasons why we are bearish on the Swiss overall, why I had that long position on dollar Swiss, is because I do feel that even based on the finance minister of the Swiss National Bank, that the dollar Swiss, even if it does come down, I'm answering several questions here at one time. Dollar CAD, again, scalp, take in either direction. If you're looking for a swing trade, I would wait for it to see if it could come down into this retracement zone down in here. Moving on to, let me go back here real quick to dollar Swiss, and I'm going to pull up the 1 hour time frame. One thing to be mindful of on dollar Swiss that we haven't talked about, but I will add this as far as to our trading sheet for the day. I don't really put I don't put a barrier on how much the dollar CAD or the dollar Swiss can move because it's been making large moves up and down quite consistently. However, when we're looking at dollar Swiss, one thing to look for on swing trades is I'd be more than happy if it comes down and retests this 9,200 level and you see the totals. And for swing trades, I'm generally looking at these 1 hour totals right in here, folks. If I get any type of retracement down in here, this is one of the reasons why I took off that long-term position. If I saw it breaking this trend line to the downside, if it comes down to this retracement zone, and if I see any type of bids come in and these 1 hour totals go to a +5, I'm going to take it. So be mindful of that. The retracement zone on dollar Swiss, I'll probably add that to the trading sheet. I know I'm past time here, but I'll add that to the trading sheet here at the end of class, because if it comes down the retracement zone, I would be looking to reestablish long positions on dollar Swiss if it comes back down into this retracement zone. The same goes from a momentum perspective. If it comes up and starts breaking through these highs, I would look to be reestablishing long positions. So even though we're taking scalp trades in either directions on dollar Swiss here, folks, don't get me wrong on swing trades. If I'm looking, and even on longer term trades that go outside the scalping scenario, I'm certainly looking to still go long dollar Swiss. I captured a quick 50 pips on that this morning. So I'm more than happy to take any long swing trades to the upside on dollar Swiss. All right, there's one more I want to talk about right here before we go. I'm going to put this back onto a 5-minute chart here and go back here. You can switch all this around in PitView, by the way. One more I want to talk about for swing trades here, folks, is pound dollar. And we really have to zoom out on this. And we got to go to a 1 hour time frame. You see how dollar Swiss came down in here, and it's almost made a little bit of a bullish Gartley in through here. And you see it's almost like an inverted head and shoulders right in through these lows right down in here. You know, counter trend strategy for pound dollar, and one that I would actually look for today. I know there's a lot of pound traders out there because I know a lot of you are in London. This pound, there's several ways to approach this. For one thing, it's already come down into the retracement zone, but pound dollar the dollar's been pretty strong. And the pound, when you look at total view, actually has been kind of towards the weak side of the equation, and it's been consolidating in between these lows right down in here. Let me zoom in a little bit on this chart. It's already come down. It did make a little bit of an ABC correction, but not a real strong one. But you see almost it is an inverted head and shoulders here. And there's our neckline for an inverted head and shoulders. Let me change the color on that so you can see it better. There we go. This little inverted head and shoulders pattern. If you start to see that it found some really nice support here at 5,000, okay, at these 5,000 levels. And it's been blowing through the 5,100 level. If we can break through this neckline right up in here, folks, once again, keep an eye on this 1 hour total on pound dollar. I'm going to add this one to our charts also. It's already bouncing off the retracement levels to where it looks to almost be making a higher low, if you will. And if it can pass through this neckline on this inverted head and shoulders, which is a reversal, I would look for this to make a nice little pop to the upside and maybe go up and retest the 5,200 levels. Obviously, it's been consolidating quite a bit right in through here on the pound, but this is another one that on a swing trade, look at the 1 hour totals. If we start to come back up here, up above this neckline, this is a reversal pattern. Or you can call it a double bottom right here, right at the 5,000 level. Either way, this high right up in here is going to be substantial. So if you can see it swing right up above this, look to take buys on the pound dollar if it gets to a 1 hour total of +5. That's one that can really go, that's one that has been known to skirt the trend, if you will, on the dollar with the dollar strength. And I'll also be adding that to our trade sheet here before I send it out to the group here this morning. All right. Now look at my charts. My charts now look like they look like a bloody mess. So let me change this. I'll change this middle one back here to dollar yen, since we're still looking at opportunity on that one. Dollar Swiss, we're still short on. Finding support down in here. We almost hit a take profit here about 20 minutes ago. We'll watch what it does. Got dollar yen here. Let me change my 5-minute charts back over here on the euro dollar. Zoom out just a little bit. Got our dollar yen, dollar Swiss. No more trades really to speak of right now. All right, so just to these are our three main ones here this morning. Okay. The scalp trades, dollar Swiss, take them in either direction, +20 or -20. Dollar yen, take them in either direction on the 5-minute totals, +20 or -20. Euro dollar, I still like shorting the shit out of this. Whoops, forgive the 4-letter word. Shorten the crap out of this. Keep an eye on this to go -20. I really like that scenario also. So those are our three scalp scenarios here today. The trade that we're already in on dollar Swiss, be mindful of these totals. Oh, never mind. Whoop. Come on, baby. Wow, that came within like a pip. Hold on. Let's see. Come on. That would put us in the black here for our scalping session. Spread. Every time it gets volatile, that spread widens a little bit. That got right down near our lows once again. Keep an eye on it just for a couple more seconds. Be mindful of the 5-minute totals, though. If they go plus 20, not only can you, if it goes plus 20, not only would you cancel out your short position on dollar Swiss, but it would also give you an opportunity to go long. So if it goes plus 20, that would put us long on dollar Swiss. Dollar yen, either direction on the 5 minutes, and euro dollar look to short it at a negative 20. Still like shorting that one. So that's it for today, folks. That's all I got. I'll be adding some other trades here. The swing trade got stopped out on euro dollar. That was minus 25. Our first scalp trade on dollar Swiss, that was profitable for a plus 16. So all in all, we're down about 9 pips. Well, actually, we're down 6 pips. We're about break even right now as far as our trade scenarios go for today. But be mindful, last week was a big week for us. Even with you got stopped out on dollar Swiss, we were up about, hell, I was almost up about 500 pips for the week. So it was a nice week last week. We'll see if we can continue it on. So other than that, if you do have any questions, let me know. And I will see everybody on Wednesday. And some of you I'll see tomorrow. So see you later, everybody. Have a nice trading day and week. And I will chat with everybody on Wednesday. Thanks for coming in. Bye-bye.